Welcome to the Lifestyle Chase. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. Proudly hosted by me, Chris Little. Without further ado, let's get started. This is episode 15 of the Lifestyle Chase. I just want to let you in on something. Both the listeners and one of my heroes who I am sitting with this evening. When you have someone that fights as hard as Patrycia in your city, it makes you want to fight hard towards anything in your life. Doesn't matter what it is. If I had a gang, I'd want Patrycia in it. Because if anybody tried to fight us, she'd help us win. Now, because some people don't always listen to a whole episode, I want to mention this right now. In the description of this podcast, there will be a link to the Multiple Sclerosis Society to make a donation or to help spread awareness. If you live in Alberta, there's a good chance that you are impacted by MS. If you are empowered to do so, I hope this episode serves as a reminder that the fight is always on. It's time to properly introduce my guest, fresh from a soccer game, the one and only Patrycia Rzechowka. Did I say your last name?
Oh my god, you nailed it.
Yes. How are you doing this evening?
I am good. I'm always happy after soccer.
Good. Got the endorphin rush and everything?
Yeah.
So was it a game or a practice?
It was a game.
Did you win?
We lost by 1. It was a little frustrating when it was like a really close game, so it was a tough loss, but like my team's just so great. Like we just love playing, so I mean at the end of the day.
From what you've shared on social media, it just seems like a good squad.
Yeah.
How long have you played with them?
Since 2014, I think, actually.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so it's coming up on a few years now. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, before my first question, I have to pass on a message. I was texting back and forth with my good friend Shane Fennessy earlier today, and he said to tell you he said hi.
Well, say hi back, or else just say hi. I mean,
well, I'll pass it on. I'll make sure to send him a text.
All right.
So she said hi back. Maybe he'll listen to this.
Maybe.
So, you're also on his podcast, so if anyone listening to this one wants to hear more, they should definitely check out the City of Champions podcast. I've gone through and tried to ask a few different questions so that people are more inclined to listen to both podcasts. We're going to start this off with one of my staple questions, but it's going to be a bit of a different answer for you than with a lot of my guests. I know a lot of my listeners know your story, but for some of them, we're going to take them on a journey today. What does the busiest day in your week look like? Can you take us through it from start to finish?
Oh, that's not fair. My days are
outlandish.
Well, like I would say today is like a great example. So I am on a project team at work. So I work for the government of Alberta with the Justice Ministry, and so we're doing engagement sessions right now with stakeholders. And so we have sessions in Calgary, and I wanted to be there, but also, there's like the spin challenge right now, so I didn't want to drive down the night before because I needed to get another class in. So I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm gonna do it, we'll go in the morning. And there was someone else that was up for it, so we got packed up 6:30 a.m. Meeting started at 10:30, so we're like, yep, that's enough time to set up and everything. And got down there, set everything up, had the meeting. Finished up at about 3 o'clock. Jumped back in the car, drove back here. I dropped her off. Took the fleet vehicle back to the building, took an Uber to my place, got in the Uber, got in my car, drove to soccer, and then came home, and now I'm doing this. So
yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah. So not every day is like that, but it seems like there's just kind of always something. Like I try and keep really active, so usually there's at least some sort of form of like either spin class or soccer game or something going on like that. And then like I work Monday to Friday, 8 to 4:30, and then just as things come up, it just depends on the time of year. And if I'm training for anything specific, then I have to do a little bit more, but yeah. It's
crazy. Like, everybody talks about how they don't have enough time. We all have the same 24 hours, and you just have to make the most of it.
Yeah.
So I was honored to be able to hear you speak at an event a little over 8 months ago. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. You told your story from start to finish.
Yeah.
I think what really impacted me, and probably everyone else, was the amount of emotional strength that you have. Your whole world came crashing down, yet here you are, strong and resilient, and one of the most passionate people that I know. When you first got diagnosed, what did you know about MS?
Ooh. And this is kind of cool because this is how I start a lot of my talks with people is I really didn't know anything. I knew my mom's cousin's wife, so married in, she had it, and hers kind of progressed like pretty steadily, right? So she was okay for the longest time, and then it kind of just declined slowly, but never to too bad of a point. But her husband was kind of always there to take care of her, so you didn't really notice as much. And then I had a neighbor, and I would always see her, and she would walk every day, and some days she would walk as if completely normal, nothing was wrong. Other days she'd kind of be slower or almost like limping, and then some days she was walking with a cane, and I just was always kind of like, why? And I asked my parents, and they said, oh, she has MS, and I honestly can't remember exactly how old I was, but it was just one of those things that I was like, I don't know what that is, so I just didn't even think about it again. And that was literally all I knew, up until I had to know more.
It's wild to think about. So you recently shared a post about the effect that exercise has on MS symptoms. And what did the doctors first tell you about exercise when they gave you the diagnosis?
So I was like, I played soccer when I was younger. I was a big runner, like distance sprinter for the longest time. And I did Muay Thai kickboxing since I was 14. So consistently kind of doing that. And I love trying new things. But it was always like more so like impact, right? Like it was always a little bit more intensive exercise. And, so when I was diagnosed, the doctor was like, okay, so, what's your regular kind of activity level like? And so I told them, this is what I like doing. And he was like, well, maybe like you can exercise, maybe scale it back, right? Like he was like, no impact, keep it really sort of like light exercise. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, I don't really know what that means. I've never really been one to do that. But yeah, so I was just like, well, he's the doctor. I should probably listen to him. So I did at the beginning. And that was the thing. I once I kind of started hearing that MS might be the cause. I all I knew, like at that point too, at like more so just like in the clouds or however you want to say it, I'd always kind of heard about the MS bike tour. So I just was like, okay, like at this point I don't know if I have it or not, but if I do, like I can still ride right now, so I want to do it. And if I don't have MS, then I want to ride for the people that do, because anyone that has to go through this process, it's super scary. So I was like, I want to be able to support that. And so then when I was diagnosed, I was like, okay, now I asked my parents for a bike for my birthday. Like I was like, this is real. Like I'm going to do this. And so I started doing spin, but because I was like, okay, low impact, right? But like, I just couldn't do like I was like, okay, I'll try this like entry, like beginner spin or whatever. And I was just like, I'm so bored.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So and this was before there was any studios or anything. This was like Millennium Place. Like that was the only place I could really find like consistent spin classes. And then I found a teacher that is like a triathlete, and she was doing a cycle performance class, and I was like, I'm gonna try this. And I was like, this is like super intense. This is 100% not what this doctor was telling me to do. Like he would totally be like, no. And I was just kind of like, you know what, I just want to see what happens.
Yeah. And
I just kind of kept pushing it. But at the same time, I also started doing yoga, which is another thing that I used to be like stretching, breathing, like what, like why? And then, but same thing with yoga. I found yoga that was like strength yoga and core yoga and like all these other things. But I think a lot of what it was about yoga was just like, like the breathing and the like stress release and the, you know, like there's so many different things that combined, that like, even though I kept trying to push these limits, like I really think that even going down that road and kind of giving my body that chance to do something a little bit different and still be active, but like not in the same intensity as I was before, just to give it a chance to reset itself. I think that actually did make a difference. So yeah. So that was sort of the beginning. But then I switched doctors.
Okay.
Yeah. And I didn't really see that first doctor too much anyways. And I don't know, like I just got to the point where it was when I exercised that I felt the best. So I was like, well, you know, like I know my body. Like I know when I'm tired to the point where like that's it, right? And I know when I'm tired and I can push through it, right? And I know that I can push myself on some levels of, you know, exercise. And so I started doing it. Like I was just like, you know, if something bad happens, then I'll know like I can't do this anymore. But I'm never gonna know if I don't push it a little bit, right? And to the point where I didn't make it dangerous, but I was also like, okay, let's just see what happens, and then, you know, and then we'll see. And there was a time where I was exercising like pretty regularly. Probably not as much as I should have been. And that's when I had another like relapse on my eye. And the thing is because I had been exercising like pretty consistently, the recovery was a lot easier. Okay. And there was something about that always stuck with me. Like I was like, I truly believe that there's got to be something to this. And then I guess that's kind of where that study came in.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
So what went through your mind when you finally got that validation that your feedback on the panel led to the study that concluded the benefits associated with exercise for people with MS?
You know what? It was just awesome because I really try to be careful because I really don't, you know, like MS is, the thing about MS is so different for every single person that has it. And so how you kind of deal with it is going to be different. And I feel like it's a little bit dangerous to be like, you know, I do this and this is what you should do. And I'm going to set up this class and everyone should come to it. That's how people should be dealing with MS. And it's like, you know what? That's not realistic, right? Like there's some people that are affected more severely, or there's some people that are like different areas are affected. Like my eyes are really affected, whereas some people's like legs are more effective or like aren't, right? So it's just so hard to kind of generalize and be like, oh, you should be doing this or you should be doing that. But to know that, at least like to be able to tell people that if you can find a way to stay active, that has shown that it repairs the myelin in the brain, which is like what kind of gets the attack, right? And so once that gets worn away, that's when sort of the MS symptoms happen. And so exercising is supposed to help regenerate that myelin. And so to be able to tell people that like whenever you like whatever you do, whatever you figure out that works for you, it's not going to harm you, right? And that's a huge thing for me, because I always have this like, I want to keep people safe. Like I don't want to tell them to do something and then it's going to harm them. So to know that and like there, you know, like this study is going to have to go so many different ways, right? Because they don't know why, or they don't know how or how much exercise or what type of exercise. Like they don't know any of that yet. But just to know that it's not going to cause harm it's a huge thing, right? Because then you can tell people exercise, you know, figure out what works for you. And that's the thing. Like I've been kind of saying these things from the beginning too. Is we need to be kind of working with like trainers and physiotherapists and people like that to like learn MS symptoms and to be able to work with the person. Like I read your post and it made me completely be like, wow, like this is exactly the types of things that I think that research is going to just even validate even more, to say like, you know, we can like if the patient or the, you know, person that has MS works closely with a good team of people, from, you know, like from the neurologist to a physiotherapist or a trainer, right? Like it's I feel like it's just going to be so much better for the person to have all of the knowledge from all these different areas and be able to know that you're at least doing it safely. I think is the big thing that like really drove it home for me because
Totally, I agree.
Yeah.
So, what was it that got you hooked into fitness in the first place? Like, you've been into fitness for a long time. Would you say it was like a childhood thing, or?
So my parents are both from Poland, so, and then I have older sister and a younger brother, so they kind of worked opposite schedules, so we never really had to be in childcare or anything like that. But then at the same time, there wasn't really time to take us to sports or anything like that. So for me, a lot of it was I just kind of found things as I could. So I think my first kind of physical activity type, like organized type things was always in school. So we had cross country running and I did really well at it. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is something that, that I might want to keep going with. And then we did like intramurals, like relay racing, and we won one time. So I was like, okay, like I'm obviously not too bad at this. And, like as we got older, like I played soccer in junior high and did track. But then in high school, again, I kind of played soccer a bit and did some track. But that's when I found kickboxing. And the reason that it kind of appealed to me was because it was literally whoever the community people were right by my house thought that it would be cool to like hire this guy to come out and do this kickboxing training. And so I saw it in a newsletter at one time and I was like, okay, cool. Because like Mom and Dad, you don't have to drive me anywhere. It's like just down the street. Like you can basically see it from our window. And like I kind of just found it myself. And it was the same thing. Like I just loved it. Like I loved being active. And like I got pretty good at it pretty fast. So then obviously like when you feel like you're good at something, you want to do it, right? Yeah. And I had a great trainer. And the funny thing about him is like, it doesn't matter where I am in my life, I've always managed to find him.
That's awesome.
Like he was there, and then he was like teaching at the U of A when I was there, and then now he's at Kamikaze Punishment, which is kind of where I've been like going off and on. So it's just awesome. Like he's just so great, and he's such a good teacher that like you just love it. So yeah, and so I did that for the longest time, and then I just sort of got into sort of like going to the gym a bit, and I was like I always stuck with running, and then sort of once the MS hit, it shifted into the types of exercise that I do. Like I do a lot of spin because I have to train for bike tours and things like that. Like I still love running.
Yeah.
But it does, like, I feel a little bit safer with spin only because like if I do get to a point where I might lose my balance or something, it's a little bit more dangerous with running, like especially if you're running longer distances. So on like an organized run, it's one thing, but like if I'm just going out on my own, it's a little like I have my mom's voice in the back of my head, like, do you like to be safe, right? Like, yeah. So
yeah, I have my parents' voices in my head too, quite often.
But like, and she's 100% right? Yeah. Like it's like if something happens and I'm somewhere and no one knows,
totally.
Like,
yeah, I agree. So, it seems like you have a pretty close-knit family. What qualities from your parents would you say made you into the strong and resilient person that you are?
Well, so they both moved here. My dad came first. He, like, went through, like, a work camp in Germany, so, like, it wasn't, like, an easy kind of transition to get here. And neither of them knew English. Like my mom was a teacher and she was, on the track to be really like successful in teaching. And, she ended up leaving, again, not knowing English. Then she had us, so she couldn't really do some of the courses to be able to potentially become a teacher here. But she started working as soon as she got here, and I don't think she's ever stopped. And she started at a Woodward's, I think it was, like back in I don't even think people know what that is anymore. Some of the older people might know, and then she got a job with the Catholic school board as a janitor, and then worked her way up, and now she's, I think, the highest level of like teacher assistant with special needs kids that there is in the school board. So like to me, that's super impressive. Like, and she's taught Polish school on the weekends ever since she moved here too. Like, I think she's like the longest serving Polish school teacher there is in the city. And so I taught for about 10 years, and like, she just has always kind of inspired me to, I don't know, like she just, and it's not like she just does it. Like, it's not like it's like a conscious thing where she's like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, she just does it. And she's like, there's 3 of us kids. We always had soup and then dinner, right? Like, the amount of things that she used to manage to do, like, it blows my mind sometimes. And then, to like come here and not know the language and then learn it. And it's the same thing for my dad, right? Like, he came and didn't have any of his equivalencies or anything, right? And so he just took whatever opportunities there were for jobs. And I feel like in some ways, like, that's kind of what I've been doing. And I think, and my mom and dad, I think they both did it. But for me, like, my plan was to be a police officer. And so once that didn't happen, I got opportunities and I just took them, and I was grateful for them, and I just ran with them because I was like, you know what, plan A didn't work. I didn't have a plan B. So now, there's people that want me to work for them. I'm enjoying this. I'm learning new things. Like, I'm just going to go with it. And that's literally been my whole career with the government of Alberta so far. It's just been sort of taking the opportunities as they come and being grateful for them. And I think that's a lot of what they did, because both my parents could have been like, well, if I stayed in Poland, I could have done this or I could have done that. And and they're just, I think, especially my mom, like, she's just very kind and thoughtful, and she just will help anyone. And I always laugh with my dad because I'm like, you have to stop doing all these things to, like, make my life easier, because I'm like, what happens, like, the day that you can't do it anymore, right? Yeah. And so I always laugh about it, but he just, it's like he just likes to feel like he's helping. And so I feel like that's just kind of, for me, that's just kind of how I think about it. Like, it's like, if I see a situation or if someone needs something and I have time or I have the capacity to be able to help them, then I will most likely do it.
Yeah, like, that's what you're doing today. Like, you're helping me with my podcast. I'm trying to spread your message, but, like, this is you taking one of your busiest days that you've had and adding on one more task. Yeah,
I'm not helping you. I've listened to the other ones. They've been pretty awesome. So,
well, thanks. What was your favorite one so far?
I actually really liked Dow.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know too much about her. So then, like, once I started listening to it, I was like, oh, I want to know more about her. So, yeah.
It's neat because, like, there's so much about people that you just, on first glance, you're like, whatever. But then you actually, like, get engaged and you're like, wow.
Yeah, and then I kind of asked a few people about her after, because I was like, she seems really cool. Like, I'm kind of, like, sad I don't know her more.
Just reach out to her.
Well, the worst part is when you listen to a podcast and then you're like, oh my God, I totally know this person. And then you're like, wait, no, I don't. Yeah, so.
For me, like, the beauty of social media is it, like, knocks down all the barriers kind of thing.
Well, it just always makes me laugh when people are like, oh, like, I follow you or I saw this and, like, I didn't want to be creepy. And I'm like, why do you think I put it on the internet? Like, if I didn't want you to, like, look at it, I would be like, I wouldn't put it out there, right? So I actually love when people are like, I follow you or I saw this or whatever. Because then I'm like, hey, people actually pay attention. Yeah. And I'm not just, like, some annoying person in the background or whatever. But, like, it just sort of, it's a nice thing, because I think, like, that, what else would be the point of social media? Like, that's
exactly
how you...
It's about socializing. Yeah. Especially when we're able to integrate that into, like, face-to-face people talking, like...
And I feel like that's so easy in Edmonton, right?
Yeah.
Because Edmonton, like, I was joke, like, small town Edmonton, right? Like,
it really is.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, so...
So that's a great segue for the next one. In the fitness industry, we talk about community a lot and how it is so important to foster a genuine community. Mm-hmm. And I've watched the Spinunity team really support you come hell or high water. Yeah. And I have a lot of respect for that degree of compassion. What has that support meant to you? And how have they shown up for you in your life so far?
Ooh. So I love this question, because I just honestly, like, I don't think I would be sort of where I am without them. because it was neat because I was already going to Millennium and I was already kind of talking about spin, and then I was involved with like Sherwood Park Toyota, that fundraiser. Spin Unity kind of like got involved with that as well. So we were already sort of connected through that, but I didn't really know too much, and the studio wasn't open yet. But it was neat because a lot of the teachers that I went to at Millennium actually ended up coming to teach at Spin Unity at the beginning. So it was such like a natural thing for me to just start going there, which I always joke because I'm like one of the OGs. Like sometimes like I was the only one in the class, and yeah, so it was just awesome. But like, I mean, like Jordan and Jeff, like Jordan's been doing the bike tour longer than I have, so it was awesome just already have someone that was experienced with that. And like they're just such like genuine people. Like they I don't know, they care about the people that come there, and there's just no, I don't know, like I always feel comfortable. Like I can show up there and it's awesome because it's a motivator, because there's some days where you're super tired, but you're like, oh, but I want to see this person or I want to see that person. And, you know, like they've shared so much of like my, you know, again, sometimes I feel super annoying when I'm like, oh, so I'm doing this, or can you share this or whatever. And they just don't even hesitate. Right. And so they've always just kind of been my like number one cheerleaders, but also like push me, to be able to do these like bike tours and things like that. Like they give me a space to be able to train safely, right? And Jordan, when I was having some of these conversations, like even with the MS Society, she was so open to trying to be able to facilitate classes so that people with MS could spin safely, right? And it was as simple as maybe providing more cool towels to cool them down, or you know what I mean? But she was so open to these kinds of conversations that it was just like, I don't know, like it just makes you like she didn't even think twice about it, right? And so it just makes it so awesome to think that there's that kind of support where like I'd never worry that if I needed extra support from them or something, like it's not even a thought in my mind that I wouldn't get it. And the community, like a lot of them have no idea that I have MS half the time, right? Like even because I did the spin instructor training, right? So like yeah, like a lot of the people had no idea. Like they were like, you're just the girl that is always like in the front row and always riding and always like pushing it. And so it's just neat in that sense too, to like, no one treats me any differently even when they find out, right? Like they're still just like, you're still that girl that's like in the front row, and you know, like giving it, right? And so I think that's the great thing too, is because like sometimes like I don't really want to be treated any differently, right? And like I'm getting more comfortable with the idea that maybe like one day I might need a bit more help, or I might need to pull back, or I might need to do certain things. But for right now, it's just so awesome to go to a community too where they know what's going on in my life, and they're genuinely interested and they want to support me however they can. Like that's, to have that kind of thing is like it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So being as athletic as you are, what's the longest distance that you've gone on a bike?
That would have been the one I just came back from. I still don't exactly know the numbers.
Rough estimate.
I think it's somewhere around 900, like, or just under 1,000. But I want to preface this with like these guys that I went with, they're like math people, so they did all these calculations. So when they actually took the distance that we did and like calculated it with all of the incline, it turned out like it ended up being that if you were to take the distance and the average incline, it would be like going up Grierson Hill, like so the one by the Shaw, for the entire time. Yeah. So I was like, oh! And the neat thing about that ride was I was so worried. Like I was so scared because I was like, you know, this is me and 4 guys. Like I don't know, like it's hot down there. Sometimes like heat affects me a bit. And it was just kind of one of those, like, am I going to be able to keep up with them? Like, how is this going to be? Like, I've done a bunch of spin, but because of the, all the smoke, like, I couldn't really get out on my actual bike too much, because it really did, like, a number on me. Like, I don't know, like, I feel like people don't realize, even with the smoke, like, your body has to, like, work harder to clear all that junk out. And so, yeah, like, when my body's kind of already tired, it just, like, wiped me. Yeah. So I had a really hard time, getting on my bike, but I could at least go to spin because the air in there was, like, fine, right? So I was like, oh my God, like, I'm gonna, like, how, this is gonna be awful and terrifying. And then, like, day one, we go up the first hill, and I, like, look back, and they're, like, super behind me. And I was like, hey, like, are you guys okay? And they're like, whoa, like, you should probably slow down. Like, this is just the first hill. And I was like, I'm not tired. I don't understand what you mean. But I was like, okay, sure. And then, yeah, like, I honestly was in front of them basically the entire time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have, like, Jay-Z in your headphones or what?
I had a lot of, yeah, like, there was a lot of, like, spin Unity playlists that I stole from. And, like, it's funny because even, like, once you start to, like, love the different instructors, like, I know there was one video where it was like, thanks, Jilly, for, like, for all these hills, because you definitely put me through these. And, like, there was one time where in her class, she was like, okay, now let's, like, surge up the hill. And I sat there and I was like, like, who surges up a hill? Why would you ever do this? And then I had to surge up a hill, like, legit. And I was like, this is what I trained for. This is it. This is, like, it's hard. Like, yeah. So, and then, like, different songs, like, remind me of different instructors. So just gives your brain a break to, like, think of, like, people that you love, or, like, instructors that you love. And yeah, like, just mentally, just great break. And, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that. Are there any MS warriors that you look up to when you need encouragement or inspiration, or do you get that inspiration from somewhere else?
Oh my God, there's so many. Like, I don't even know if I can list them all, to be honest. Like, I had sort of, like, 2 when I first got diagnosed, and I think I owe quite a bit to them, because to me, when I looked at the 2 of them, they were exactly the thing of, like, your life isn't over. You can do awesome things. And I was like, I want to do it like that. Like, that's what I want to do. And, like, they're just phenomenal human beings. Like, I was fortunate enough to, because before it was just sort of, I had heard about them and heard about the things that they were doing. And then I was fortunate enough to meet them, and then now be, like, fairly close with them. And, like, it's just so lovely to still have that relationship. But then for them to say it back, right? To say, like, now I motivate them. But there's just so many that I've met. Like, I joke, like, we have, like, our MSketeers for our Hinton bike tour team, and the ladies on that team, like, all the time, like, we joke, like, I have one that Molly, she's my twinsy, right? Like we just always, like, we all have sort of a little bit of a different connection, but yeah, like, there's the amount of, and this is the thing, and for the longest time, I really was not too sure about wanting to, like, be so open about it. And then it became one of these things that it really isn't about being on the news or, doing some of these things. Like, the most sort of thing that I, like, take the most away from is when the person that just gets diagnosed reaches out and says, like, I've been watching you, and, like, you've inspired me to stay active or to not give up, and, things like that. And, like, even through work, like, sometimes they do stories, and I'm like, like, you guys gotta slow it down. Like, not everyone needs to know everything that I'm doing. But then every single time someone reaches out, someone says, like, my niece just got diagnosed, my sister just got diagnosed. And there's a lot of people that even, it's awesome because their family member gets diagnosed and they want to know how to best support them. So, like, it's not even that they want me to talk to that person. Like, they want to know how they can help, right? So, and actually, someone reached out to me in that capacity as an employer to say, like, one of my, employees just got diagnosed and I want to know how to support her. So those are the types of things that when I hear those types of things, it's like, it's so worth it to put myself out there, because if that's what's going to kind of change things and make things easier for people, that's 100% what I want to do. I just want to help people. And I feel like right now, like the platform I've been given, maybe is the right word, has allowed for me to do that in a way that I never thought I'd be able to do.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
So I've noticed you and Spider Mabel have become partners in crime.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about her story and how the two of you came together?
Well, I think everyone knows Spider-Man's story.
Of course,
but yeah, her and I, it was so funny because, again, social media. So we do the food bank fundraiser at Sherwood Park Toyota, which is actually coming up next week. So, like, if anyone wants to come ride or donate food, for sure. Like,
how can they get more info? Google it?
Yeah, like, just Google Pedal Power.
Okay.
Or Sherwood Park Toyota. It's on, I think, their main website. So, and yeah, like, so that the year that she was kind of like born as Spider Mabel, I tweeted something at her saying something like, "Can you help, like, come save the city from going hungry?" And I guess they thought that was really cute, like, because, you know, like, they had everyone asking her to come out, and I guess, like, they liked it was clever.
Yeah.
And so they came, and honestly, just ever since then, it's been like, I get invited to things they do, and I invite them to everything that I do, and, you know, they come when they can, and they show up quite a bit, so I'm pretty fortunate that way, and yeah, like, she's just grown up, and she just wants to, I think she just wants to help as well, so it's been easy to, you know, when they're doing something, to try and support it however I can.
I always get, like, this warm, fuzzy feeling when I'm watching social media, and then I see Spider Mabel showed up to your thing again.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, aside from ending MS, winning the fight, and spreading awareness, what are some personal goals you have? What are 5 things on your bucket list?
Oh, God. Well, it's funny because I made a 30 by 30 list, but I tried to put on, like, things that were kind of achievable. Like, I was like, you know, I don't want to totally put on things that I know I'm not going to be able to do, because I am kind of, like, realistic and sometimes, like, painfully practical. So I have all these, like, dreams, but I'm like, oh yeah, but, like, is that really a smart idea? I would love to travel more. That would be really awesome. Like, I haven't actually been back to Poland. It'll be 10 years next year, and I used to go all the time, so that's a big one. Like, I really would love to go back, but it's really tough because, like, a lot of my family has passed away. Like, my grandma's 102 when she passed away, right? So a lot of my family's kind of older, so and a lot of them have come to visit here, so I'm like, I'm not missing out on anything. But yeah, that's definitely one. Work-wise, like, I really just kind of want to keep taking the opportunities as they come. Like, this project is supposed to be done in June, and then I don't know if there's another phase or if I'll be involved, but yeah, like, it's just, I just kind of try and take the opportunities as they come with that one. So I don't know if I really have any goals, but for me, it's just learning as much as I can. Like, so when I get chances to even, like, work with someone different and they have a different skill set, like, I just love to be able to learn from them, because, like, there's so many great people that I work with, and you know, I've been super fortunate to have great bosses, so that's a tough one, because I have no desire to, like, leave anywhere or, like, do anything crazy. What else? Because that's 2, and that's not even really 2. I would like to potentially, like, make a website or something so that everything's kind of, like, centralized. I know people keep telling me to do it, and
It's so easy.
I know, but I don't know. Like, I don't like to really, like, it's funny that I'm doing this right now, but I don't really like talking about me. Like, it's one thing to kind of have a conversation like this, but it's another thing to be like, I'm going to write all about me. When I have to write a bio, it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
You could just, like, compile it all, like, for the website that I made for Invigorate Training.
Yeah.
I just used Wix.
Yeah.
And it's super, super easy.
Yeah.
just integrate all your social media, all the articles. There's a lot of like material that has been done on you, like you're gonna be in a movie or film or whatever, like.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, I should probably just do it.
Yeah.
But it's funny because people think that like I run the MS with the wrong girl pages. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no,
that's not me.
You can tell like it's just a lot of it is like retweets and stuff.
Yeah. So what else do I want to do? This is such a tough one because like so much of my everything's just sort of focused on like the advocacy, but.
Is there like a particular place you'd want to ride your bike, or?
Oh, I was joking with them. I'm like, when is this like tour going to Hawaii?
Well, there you go.
Well, they're like, no, we can't do that. But I guess that comes in. So I already said Poland, but like, there's so many places I would love to go. So like, travel wise, like I could list that off and totally cheat and be like, yeah, that's 5 things.
Yeah, totally.
But it's everything. For like, I'd love Japan because of the food, like straight up sushi, like. Yeah. All the time. I could eat it. Italy for the pizza, even though love pizza is like pretty close. And pasta. Oh my god. You tell I have food. I basically like you think I exercise to like keep my MS at bay? No, like I exercise so I can eat food.
Totally. That's awesome.
Don't tell anyone.
No, I
won't. But yeah, like I don't know, and that's the thing, and I think I sometimes feel weird about it that I don't have more of these sort of like big life goals, but I think MS has really forced me to live like a day at a time.
Yeah.
So I have these ideas of certain things that I would love to do, but I also really try and like get the most out of every day. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm sort of more in, like, the here and now, maybe, like, the next, like, week or 2 weeks, or, you know, as crazy things come up, you know, I try and do them. So, yeah, like, it would be really hard to have all these crazy goals, but then also be taking opportunities as they come, right? Like, I feel like there's got to be a balance in there somewhere, and eventually maybe there will be. It's just right now I feel like... Yeah, like everything's kind of come up and I want to make the most of it. So
and it makes sense. Like you do a good job of making the most of each day. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people take that for granted. And like, as you probably know about me, like I'm a big spin fan. Like I've been involved in that quite a bit.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite messages that's been circulating a lot is just like, life is short.
Yeah.
Like, make the most of people that are in your life and really support them. Like, genuinely look out for people.
Yeah.
And don't be a fake person.
Well, and I think the thing is for me, like, too, like, I don't want anyone to think that I don't have bad days where I'm just like, I just want to sit on my couch, I don't want to do anything. But I really have tried lately to kind of even take bad situations and be like, okay, what is this supposed to teach me about the world, let's say, but what's it also supposed to teach me about me? And like, how can I look at certain things differently? And you know, like it's tough. Like, I'm the first person to admit that like I get anxiety about the weirdest things sometimes, and even trying to work through things like that. But then on the flip side, I've really been able to look at certain situations and be like, if something goes wrong, it's like, okay, so what can you do to make it not go wrong? And if you can't, how are you going to deal with it? Like, how are you going to, you know, like, what are you going to do after the fact? Like, you're going to have to do something, and it may not be exactly how you thought it was going to go, but yeah, like, you just kind of got to adapt. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing is it's like, because I get, like, it's so easy to, like, there's just some days where, like, even when I was driving back here, I was like, boss, people are going 20 under the speed limit, and like, I'm just getting, like, and I'm late, and it's just like, okay, hold on. Like, I, like, say, like, certain times, like, it's like, I have a car that I'm driving. I, like, have, like, a cool person I'm supposed to go meet. If I'm 5 minutes late, you're not gonna...
No.
Yeah.
That was super chill.
But that's the thing. You kind of forget that sometimes, right? And it's, and so I've really kind of tried to do that. Like, not in a disrespectful way, but, like, in a way that it's just like, okay, like, things come up and things happen and you just kind of deal with them. And if you kind of do, like, if you do that in your mind and you just realize, like, okay, like, not the end of the world, you know, not ideal, but not the end of the world.
Sort of like mindfulness, sort of taking control over what we have control of.
Yeah, totally.
Like, things present themselves, and we have one of two ways to attack them. We can either take a deep breath and just make the most of whatever we have control of. Yeah. Or we can panic and get all anxious and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, like again, some things you just cannot control, but you can control how you respond to them. So 100%, that's like exactly what it is. But yeah, like I don't know. But again, I have to be like, I am totally a real person. I get mad at stupid things, and it takes me like a few seconds to be like, okay, no, like calm down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would definitely, I think, I can't remember who was telling me this story, but where I read it somewhere, where someone heard someone crying in a bathroom, and they were like, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? And the person was like, yeah, like, I just found out, like, my bus pass got paid for, like, and I couldn't afford it before. So, it's like, you think about it, you're just like, even, like, I have a car. I can afford a car. I can pay for insurance. I can pay for gas. I have a place to park my car. I have a place to go, right? Like, there's just so many things that you don't realize. It's like, wow. But then I have, like, I understand it for people on some levels too, because if you're used to sort of a certain level or you have a certain comfort zone, when something goes wrong, even though it's not a big deal to someone else, it is to them, because that's the biggest thing that they're dealing with. And that's the interesting thing, that when I talk to people, like, they're always like, oh, you know, I don't even want to complain to you because, like, it's nothing like what you're dealing with. And it's like, but yes, it is, because if I have an MS attack, that's the biggest thing that I have to deal with. And if something else is going wrong in someone else's life, that's the biggest thing that they have to deal with. There's no, like, hierarchy, right? Like, it's like, if you're going through something, you go through it. Like, you don't get to be like, oh, you know, like, it's not as bad. Because I actually used to do that with, like, myself, right? Like, I would be like, well, you know, like, I shouldn't feel tired today, or I shouldn't feel sad today, because, you know, like, lots of people have it worse than I do. And it's just like, that's just not fair, right? Like, it's not a fair way of looking at it. Like, allowing yourself to either be sad or mad, like, that's what you gotta do. Like, you can't go around pretending that life is all awesome all the time, because this is not realistic.
I agree. That's a great way to put it. Mm-hmm. So you were recognized by Avenue Magazine as a top 40 under 40 recipient in 2017, right?
Yeah.
So that's incredible. You've also been recognized in many other ways for your resiliency and passion in the fight against MS. What are some of the most impactful connections you've made at these events? And who are 3 people who really stand out to you?
Oh, I was a joke about the top 40. I'm like, lots of people were out of town that year, I think, or something. I don't know how that happened. But, this is a hard one. Like,
even if you have way more than 3, just kind of, like, call out 3, like, acknowledge 3.
But, like, hold on, since when?
Well, in all of the acknowledgements that you've been involved in, or even just in that group of the top 40, or maybe this year there's people that have really stood out to you. But, like, you obviously have a pretty vast network.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Blake Lotes is a big one, and it was really neat to be in the same top 40 year as her.
Yeah.
Because, I think, you know, again, we're not dealing with the same thing, but I think we're kind of trying to approach it the same way.
I actually messaged her on Instagram. I'm going to try and get her on the podcast.
Yeah, she's awesome. Oh, God. Like, this is so hard, because, like, there's so many people in the community that have just reach out and offer support on so many levels. Like even with my my mini gala or whatever, like the few stores that kind of stepped up to do the fashion show, even though I literally had no plan. I was just like, yeah, this is kind of my idea. And, you know, I think it was Shop Resort, Flock, Groovestone, and Bella Moss, and then Key Lime. Like, they all were just like, sure, we'll just
Yeah.
show up, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll just have fun, and it was just awesome because they all do stuff in their own worlds, and then I think Bella Moss, they ended up winning the 50-50 and donating it back. So
Nice.
like there's that element, and then like just. This is so hard, but even like the Yeg Fitness, like the TJs of the world,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like he connects so many people, and that's really awesome. Like there's a lot of people that I wouldn't have met if it wasn't for Yeg Fitness and for TJ, and then like Jesse Kupina, right? Like always first to try and help in any way that he can. Like
Totally.
I could just keep going. Like this is so
I
hard.
know.
But and. Like, and this is funny, but the people that are doing my documentary, they kind of not forced me, but they kind of like made me see something that maybe I hadn't seen in myself before. So, it's neat, and it's neat to kind of be pushed out of my comfort zone a little bit. And I really think that the way that they're doing it is going to make a big difference. So, but I can only imagine how tough it is for them some days. Because, man, when I get, like, hangry, like, hungry, grumpy, and tired, like, it's like, whoo! And they're usually the ones that are around. So I'm like, ooh.
That's
It's
awesome.
like, how are you still, and you still like me. You still want to spend time with me. I'm like, okay.
What's the time frame on that movie? When do you think it'll be out, or do you know?
I think it has to be delivered May 15th. So, but I mean, like, if you watch any of the MS with social media, like they'll update and they'll yeah. So
if people are looking for it, they just Google "not to be MS'd with."
Yeah.
Or...
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Or like it's on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So there's quite a bit of it. And then through mine, like I have them tagged and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. I could keep listing people, but I think we'll stop.
So it's a rock solid
there.
list. Those are some good people, and I think everybody that listens knows there's lots of.
Yeah, well, because I mean, like, there's people that I don't know if I've necessarily met through doing those things, but like even at the MS Society staff, right? Like they are such solid people, and they make it so easy to like stay connected and want to do these things, right? Because like when they put something forward, I know that they're not just doing it because, right? Like they actually think that it's something that would be impactful, right? So yeah, so that's I don't know. I'll stop my
Fair enough. So, as you saw in my Facebook post, I have a client who I'm training weekly now who is waiting to hear back on the results from some tests as to whether she has MS or not.
Yeah.
There's going to be some times when she'll really need to hear the right statement or have a mantra to start off her day, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
What has worked for you?
Well, I did tattoo UMS with the wrong girl on my leg so that I could see it when I get up. But a lot of the times it's not even a mantra. It's just kind of keeping in mind what's important. So like the days where I'm so tired, like sometimes literally it's just in my head. It's just get up, just gotta get up, and then it'll be okay. Like just do it. And yeah, like I don't know, like I keep in mind all of the things, like, so tomorrow, right? So what do I have to do tomorrow? I, have to go to work, and what do I have to do at work? Or do I have meetings? Am I supposed to be, what am I supposed to be doing at work? And then what am I supposed to do after work, right? And so when I keep all of those things in mind, and I don't know if that's why I try and stay so busy, it's just like, if I keep these things in mind of the things that are going to motivate me, and even potentially like I said, I love the people that I work with. So if I don't show up, then whatever I was supposed to do that day falls on them. And I don't like putting people in that situation. Like, so I have to be feeling really, really, really crappy to be able to say like, no, like I can't do this today. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's some days where I'm just like, oh my God, like I don't know if I can do this. And just thinking about those things that kind of motivate me is the thing that gets me going. But I am also fortunate in the fact that like I have like a solid, community on so many different levels, and especially like my family, right? And so I am lucky in the sense that I know that if anything ever went really wrong and I needed help, that they would be there. But then on the flip side, I know that there's people that have MS that don't have that. And so that is 100% why I do a lot of what I do as well. Because it's like, just because I don't need the support of the MS Society for certain things doesn't mean that there's people out there that have MS that do need those things. So yeah, like it's just, it's such a tough one, right? Because especially like if you're not going through a major relapse either, like if it's nothing super debilitating, like if it's something that you've just kind of gotten used to, like that's just sort of how you have to live, you just fight through it, right? And so you almost develop like a new normal. And I think a lot of the times that's a really good way to do it, to just be like, okay, like this is where I'm at now. And, you know, like, you just got to go with it, right? Because, like, for the longest time, they were like, you know, your eye is going to stay blurry. And it was like, all right, well, at this point, like, there's nothing I can do to fix it. So what would I do if it stayed blurry? And what are the things that I would have to modify if it did, right? And so, yeah, like, it's just, that's the tricky thing about MS, right? Like, it's just, like, every day can be completely different. So it's just... I think really it might be just keeping that positive, like, outlook that, like, you're gonna get through it, and there's people around you, and there's like MS Society can support you, right? So I feel like there's always kind of gonna be that person or someone that can support, because, like, at the end of the day, if someone that had MS didn't have someone and they were like, oh my god, Patrycia, like, I need a ride here, I'd be like, okay, right? So I don't know. Like, I feel like you're just always going to be able to find someone. So just keeping that positive outlook might be the big thing.
Yeah, and I think, like, as much as you might think, oh, you know, it just makes sense, but somebody needs to hear that sometimes. Like,
yeah.
Somebody is going to play that part over and over if they're listening to the podcast and they have MS.
But the thing is, too, and I learned this kind of the hard way, is let yourself be sad.
Yeah.
Like, let yourself be angry, and let yourself sort of, like, I don't want to say grieve, but, like, with a lot of the times, like, if you have an MS attack and you lose, like, a certain function, you have to grieve that. And it's a whole new process. Like, it's not like you got diagnosed with MS and, like, you have to deal with that, and then, like, you just don't ever have to deal with anything new. Like, there always can be something new. So it's just, like, allowing yourself to do that, I think, is a big thing. And yeah, just kind of learning, like, how best to be okay with that sort of new normal, even though sometimes it might suck, and you can say that. And that's the thing is, like, I'm out there in the sense that, like, if someone wants to just, like, vent to someone that can kind of understand, like, I'm 100% there for that too, right? Like, it's like, I always laugh when people are like, oh, you know, like, I'm sorry to be complaining to you, and it's like, if I didn't want, like, I wouldn't have asked. I wouldn't have asked you how you're feeling if I thought that I was just gonna get, like, the, oh, I'm okay, or, like, oh, I'm this or that. Like, if you need to talk and you want to be straight up, and again, like, I might not have ever experienced the same MS symptom that this person might have, but I feel like just even knowing that you have that same kind of, like thing trying to, you know, wreak havoc on your brain, like, it's just like, you just connect to people that way. You're just like, we don't have the same symptoms, but we both know that, like, something's going on in here. So it's like, yeah, we're friends. We're cool.
Yeah, in the same boat.
Yeah.
In the same boat.
Yeah, so.
That's awesome. We're going to roll into some quick answer questions now.
Oh, God.
So get ready.
Oh, I suck at these.
Being as active as you are, you must get hungry pretty frequently, as we've discussed.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite thing to snack on?
Sour Patch Kids.
Okay. If you need a song to get pumped up, what is your go-to?
Oh, that's not fair. I have so many. I love Pitbull. Okay, I'm straight up honest. I love Pitbull. So really anything by Pitbull.
That's awesome. He's the guy that's like worldwide,
right? Yeah, but he's like always in songs, and you're like, this is cool. Like, you don't really do your own songs. You always have someone with you, which kind of keeps it new, right? Like,
But he's super upbeat,
Yeah.
so it's easy to like him.
and like he's my dad's favorite. My dad's like 60, he'll be 67
That's awesome.
in like a week. So like, I took him to a Pitbull concert. Like, yeah. So always gonna be a soft spot.
That's crazy. Like my parents are similar age,
Yeah.
and I could never see them going to a Pitbull concert.
Yes, it's pretty cool. So yeah, Pitbull. There we go.
Nice. Hockey or football?
Oh, like live or
Just watching there at the game.
Probably hockey.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of more of an upbeat, sort of higher profile in the city.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite like kind of waffles?
Okay, so this is the funny thing is like usually I really want to go to places with people that will share like a savory and a sweet waffle with me because I want like the hollandaisey like eggy waffle, and then I also want like the fruity custard waffle.
So you like all the waffles?
I like all the waffles. Yeah,
Nice.
I don't discriminate against waffles.
That's awesome. So my audience is very compassionate. They've supported me this far, and they've given amazing feedback on the guests that I've chosen. I know they'll want to help in some way.
Mm-hmm.
What is the best way for them to help you in the fight against MS?
Well, you were mentioning like, so I like my bike tour page is up. Like, so if you want to do financial, that is always an option. And yeah, like bike tour is the one I focus on because like I could fundraise for every single MS Society event there is. But like, since I am the spokesperson for it, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna like only hit people up for that one. But honestly, just like, I don't know, like even asking questions and like spreading the awareness, because I think the awareness is the big thing. Like, I think that's where the most change is going to come, because I think when people don't know about MS, like that's where a lot of the struggles that people that do have MS like deal with, because if there's a misconception about like because a lot of the times when you think MS, you think of what you can see, and that's usually when someone's progressed pretty quickly or like progressed over like a long period of time, so that they're in a wheelchair and you can see that. Whereas a lot of people that have MS, like you can't see their symptoms or you don't kind of know what they're dealing with. And so like I know even in terms of jobs, like it's going to be really tough because you disclose to an employer that you have MS, and in their mind they're thinking like worst case scenario, right? So the more that people talk about it and the more that they acknowledge that like where there's so much research and so many things that are out there that are, you know, like, and we're leaps and bounds ahead of everything. Like when I first got diagnosed, there was only a handful of medications and they were all injections, and now we have like infusions that are like twice a year or 4 times a year, or pills like that's since 2012. Like that's huge, and that's literally just like research and like the funding. And I think the research is the big thing, because like until we can figure out what causes it and can cause it and then cures it, like, you know, that's got to be our main focus. But a lot of like the other research that's coming out around things like exercise are making it so that the people that have MS can have a good quality of life now, right? So unfortunately, I hate to be the person that's like, oh, donate money, but that's a huge way. But even like just volunteering, right? Like that's another big one. Like the MS Society is constantly volunteering, and the thing about it is like I don't want to be like, oh, they're such great events, but they really are. Like our bike tour, like people have said it's like going to a concert, right? Like it's so like just everyone's there for the same reason. Everyone's sort of like-minded. It's such kind of like, even though, you know, like you're there to support something that's scary, but to know that like there's 2,000 or whatever people riding all to try and do the same thing, like you can't help but just feel empowered by it, right? Because you're just like, I have, you know, like this whole group of people behind me, right? And I feel like a lot of people that have MS that do the ride or that are at the ride say the same thing, right? So just I think getting involved is a big thing. Like, again, like sharing, creating that awareness is huge. Like, even with the documentary, when we were doing the voting, like, I laughed because I was like, at this point, like, if we don't get picked, the amount of people that shared this and talked about it was so huge that I was like I'm so grateful just for that. It right?
did the job in its own.
Yeah. So you never know sort of what there's the smallest question or what the smallest sharing or will do for the cause or for and just even if you do know someone, like I'm always so willing to connect with people that are newly diagnosed. Like, I think that's super important because I had those people that I look to, and then so I really want to, and it doesn't necessarily have to be me, like, but I know lots of people that have MS and they're phenomenal, like I was telling you about, right? Like, there's so many people that they can talk to and I can easily direct them to them too, right? So it's not just about me talking to them or anything. But yeah, like, I think that's a huge one because I think just that ability to not feel alone is a really big thing. And
that's something like everybody needs no matter what.
Yeah. And I feel like there's a lot of people that don't have MS that can relate to certain aspects of my story, right? And
I think all people can.
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know if that actually answered your question or not.
It did. No worries. It did. So we're at the last question.
Okay.
If you could give our listeners one piece of advice on how to live their life authentically to the fullest extent, what would it be?
And it's funny because I've started using this hashtag, but I completely love it because, like, I use love this life. So this life is in you, like the one you're in, and I think that's the big thing is, like, I love the life that I try to love the life I was given. I didn't choose certain aspects of it, but I've been given opportunities that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't gotten diagnosed with MS. I wouldn't have met certain people. My life didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? And it's gone a completely different way. And so when you just choose to love what's going on in your life, like, I think that's the big thing. And man, just like be nice to each other.
Yeah.
Just be kind. Like, it's not even like you have to go out of your way to do anything, but just, you never know what someone's going through. Like, you never know if they had a rough night the night before that's making them react a certain way, right? Like, it's just, and again, like, I'm the first person to sometimes be like, wow, or I'm the person that's like, I had a bad night, or I'm really hungry.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to kind of have that, like, understanding that, like, someone might be going through something and you just gotta kind of, like, be as kind as possible. And I know that's really tough sometimes, but I think it's a good rule. But yeah. I think love this life is my is my favorite.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you very much for making time for me and sharing your story.
Yeah.
We'll catch you later.